Hello guys, this is the deck, and today I will bring you some thoughts on religion. I would like to start with a disclaimer. I'm not a religious person. I'm a strong atheist, as probably you guys know, but I do have an interest in religion and myth. I have always had an interest from a child, from the time I was a child. I've been reading from time to time about Greek myths, Roman myths, and northern religions, whatever. I'm not an expert by any account, but it's a topic that interests me, like fantasy movies and stuff. Whatever. Point is, I'm going to be talking about heresy. Topic of heresy, what it is, and I'm going to describe briefly a couple of heresies, namely in the christological field. I'm going to be talking about arianism, nestorianism, monophysitism, miaphysitism, and that's it. So let's start with arianism. So Arianism was, I don't know if it was the earliest, but it was the earliest christological heresy, meaning heresy concerning the the nature of Christ and the relationship of Christ with God the Father. Okay, that there was, and it was so great and so powerful, namely because it enjoyed the protection of the emperor in Constantinople. Arianism essentially recognized that if God is supposed to be meaning unity, united, then God could not be divine. Okay, so it denied the divinity of Christ. Okay, so Christ was just a man. Okay, awesome man, awesome example, but just a man. This was a heresy that lasted for 3 centuries or so, and then it was finally suppressed when I think the Visigothic king converted. This was big with the Visigoths. Now, heresies concerning natures of Christ, nature of Christ, that accept his divinity. Okay, so from now on, they all accept the divinity of Christ, but this isn't sufficient. We can start with monophysitists. Monophysitists believe that Christ, the person of Christ, as we all know, there are 3 persons. It's Trinity. We've got the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost, or Paraclete. Now, even though there are different persons, they share the same substance. So the Son is consubstantial with the Father, meaning made of the same substance. Now, this is not the problem here. They all accept the consubstantiality, unless you care to tell me that they're not, and that they do not, and explain then if I'm strawmanning. Okay, I may have misunderstood, but it's not likely. Now, relating to the natures of God, of Christ, as I was saying, monophysitism claims that there is a single nature to Christ, namely the nature of human turned into divine. So they only assert the divinity of the nature of Christ. Christ is now totally divine, yo. It may have started as a human nature, but it's dissolved into divine. Okay? We have a slight variation of monophysitism called miaphysitism next. It also states that Christ has only one nature, single nature. And nevertheless, that nature is a mixed nature, okay? So it's a mix of humanity and divinity. So it's a hybrid nature. Single nature, okay, but a hybrid. So it didn't lose the human part like in monophysitism. It's still got a human part to the nature. Single nature. And now we are going to go to the opposite field, the field known as diaphysitists. Okay? Meaning belief in two natures of Christ. In terms of what is conventionally accepted, and this is not heresy, this is dogma, it's a form of diaphysitism in which the two natures of Christ, meaning Christ has a human nature and a divine nature, entirely, in full, meaning he's 100% human and 100% divine, joined into one person without the natures being separate, but also without them being fused into a single nature. Okay? So they have the best of it all. They have the, you see what I'm saying? The heresy in this field of two natures is called nestorianism, because it was once again created by a monk called Nestorius. He said Christ has two natures, but these natures live co-eternally in the person of Christ, but they are separate natures. Okay, they are not joined into a single nature, and they are not. They do not have what is called a hypostatic union. Okay, the conventional dogma says that these two natures live in one single person in a hypostatic union without that turning into one nature. There's still two. Okay, but Nestorianism says that this is not a union. Okay, it's sort of a schizophrenic thing. It's on the one hand you've got the divine logos, and on the other hand you've got Christ, the human being. So it's like having two persons in fact living inside of you. They don't call it persons, they call it two natures still, but they're separate natures living in the same person. Okay, so for instance, and this is relevant because, for instance, when you torture Christ, when you crucify Christ, the divine nature of Christ does not suffer along with the human nature because they're separate. They're not joined in a hypostatic union. So I've got some questions to people that are interested in this sort of debates. And the first is, why do you think that the conventional dogma is better than both miaphysitism, meaning one single nature, divine nature, or Nestorianism, two natures living separately, so that both God and is preserved from pain and stuff like that? Also, what is the difference? How can you have the Son having the same nature, the same substance as the Father, but having two natures, while the Father only has supposedly a divine nature, and the Son, being made of the same substance, has two natures? How is this process? How does this process? Okay? Or is it the case that also God the Father has two natures? I've never heard of a human God the Father nature, but it is possible that if it's the same substance, then it's got both natures in both persons. I don't know. What do you think about it? And that's it. Those are my questions to you guys. Those are my questions. Why is it better, the current dogma? And how is it possible for the same substance to turn into two natures in the case of the person of the Son? And also, if you care to present, what is the difference between substance and nature? What the hell is the difference? Okay, be cool.